Rob Orman, how are you today?
Fantastic. We don't get to do these things very often, so I'm feeling pretty chipper.
Yeah, we do not do this very often. Yeah, you should feel good about this. Now, we're missing somebody very important, which is Matthew DeClercq, 2 T's, an I, and 6 W's. He spells it like that. But instead of Matt DeClercq this month for our EP monthly chats in November 2018, we have the venerable Rob Orman. And the first thing we're going to cover today, the first EP monthly article we're going to cover is called Burnout by Mark Plaster, our Mark Plaster. And I would like to show you something. I don't know if you can see this, but I went to a conference recently, and there was Mark Plaster, and he gave me a copy of his book, this book. It's called Night Shift, and he wrote in it, and I felt like a fanboy, and he signed my boobs, and I felt like we're gonna probably go to dinner later, and you're not even invited. Maybe we'll have beers. I don't care. So here's the thing, this particular article called Burnout is interesting to me. We talk about burnout all the time, right? But one person you don't think is ever going to get burnout is Mark Plaster, because I've been reading his story since the dawn of the millennia, and but he just sort of he hits on a little bit of burnout for himself, and a little bit of marital insight you'll have to read for yourself. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not saying
just go to the end of the story. That's the real crux.
Just go to the end of the story, and then close it, and then take a jog or something. I don't know what you got to do. Take a shower, but it's a good story, and I hope that Mark Plaster is not burned out. So I want to see part 2. If Mark Plaster burns out, we're all in big trouble. Did you know that he's 17 feet tall and can crush a car in his bare hands? Did you know that?
He's a big man. How many times in your career have you burnt out, Bright?
Oh my gosh. I have burnt out. Let me be honest about this. I burned out mid-residency. Then I became chief resident, and I burned out chief 4th year. And then I got out. I think I burned out like 68 times the first year. And then I burned out from community practice and went back into academics after about 5 years of full-time community practice and being a medical director. Then I burned out in academic practice. I'm a master. If they gave out black belts in burnout, I have it. I have a 2nd degree. How about yourself? Have you ever burned out? You're pretty good about staying tight.
I have burnt out at least 4 times that I can think of.
Nice. Nice.
Definitely once in residency. There was a test, there was a survey, an anonymous survey that was done at ASAP when I went as a senior. They're like, oh, we're just doing this survey. It was when burnout was just coming to the forefront. This is in the late 90s. And they said, this is totally anonymous, and just be honest with the questions. And it was, about your feelings of burnout. I didn't realize that, but they asked you questions about, how do you feel about going to a shift? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And a couple months later, they sent me a letter. They said, we're really worried about you. I was like,
that's awesome.
Well,
that's awesome.
Well, wait, so I had a couple thoughts like, well, thanks, but wait, who are you to tell me that I'm at risk for burnout? And then,
that's when you go like erase all your passwords and like move to the mountains.
Exactly.
Like, these guys are watching me. How's it possible?
Yeah,
well, that's good. I don't want you to burn out either.
First year community practice, halfway through community practice, about 10 years into community practice, and that's kind of what led to podcasting for me was burnout. Wanting a different outlet. And also changing venues. But, I was talking with Dyke Drummond. He's a guy that runs the Happy MD. And he said, what you should do if you're feeling like you're having trouble is find somebody who you think is really cool. Really cool. Maybe Mark Plaster would be a great example. Somebody who's usually going to be older than you. And you sit down, and the first question you ask them is, tell me your burnout story. And invariably, they'll tell you or ask you which one happens to everybody. And it's painful. It's often the path to wisdom, but getting through it, man, that can be a real trial.
All right, Rob Orman, ERcast fame, Hippo Education Studios. We are totally in the same room. Don't ask me any questions about it. We're so here in the same room. And that was our burnout from Mark Plaster. And we will see you in a moment. Get your EP monthly. It's hot off the presses. Taking the elevator down.